I'm Brian Bearfield. I am the co-founder of Screaming on the Inside. Mila was the other one. Screaming on the Inside is the men's mental health nonprofit that we have together. I myself personally went through mental health issues started in 2011, and I didn't get help until 2013. And I got that help because I didn't see people as people anymore, and I said this on Dr. Don's show yesterday. I didn't see people as people, I seen them as objects, and I felt that I needed to get those objects out of my way and destroy them. So I'm passionate about mental health, but men's mental health, because we keep it trapped on the inside all the time. And there's a lot of issues that, men go through. We're not as big communicators. We're not as emotional to say our feelings, because we always feel like that's a sign of weakness. Mental illness or health conditions involving changes in thinking, emotion, or behavior, or a combination of these. Mental illness are associated with distress and or problems functioning in social work or family activities. And so I want to open it.
What it is to me. The mental health, if you look on social media, it's all kind of definitions. But for me, mental health is when you're in a place where you're mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, or good mental health. That's what it means to me. I never make them see things from my perspective. I always have to be open, because each client is different. And the process I use to coach is not going to be the same. What I'm going to use for one is not going to work for the other. That's why I do consultations. You have to do consultations before. But whatever your goals are, I can help support you in that. But you got to be willing to put in the work, number one. But I don't come in with my own experiences telling them this is how you got to do it because it's got to work for them, and that's why they're comfortable with me. You got to make, it's not about you, it's about the client.
Yes.
And you got to use the process that's going to be best for the client to win and to be in a place, again, where they are mentally, spiritually, and emotionally whole, because you're responsible. When somebody comes to you with problems, you are responsible. So I can't put, well, this is what you should do because I did it. No. It's about what's best for the client.
I mean, your mental health is going to affect every part of your life. I mean, I look at mental health the same way that I look at physical health. If you have physical health problems going on, that's going to affect you and everyone around you. Well, mental health will do the same thing. One is just from the neck up, and the other one's from the neck down. So you've got to take care of the whole health in order to be whole, like you described. I mean, you've got to get all that under control to be able to do that.
Many times with men also, it can be health issues. The first thing I check out is, what's your health like? When was the last time you saw a doctor? Have you seen a urologist? What's your testosterone level like? What's your functioning like in the morning, etc. I'm not a sex therapist, so I don't go too deep into that, but I always check out medically what's going on, and then we look at emotional. And also with men, many times they are so burdened with work and just trying to be a dad, a husband, and it just gets to be just too much, and really trying to look at boundaries and is this gentleman doing too much? What is he doing in his life? Is he pursuing his goals? Is he depressed? Is he angry, etc.?
Men are a little bit more fragile than people think. We're a lot more emotional than people think. And a man's ego is fragile. And once it is damaged and or broken, it is hard. Now a lot of men would, the male ego is fragile, and it gets me in trouble. It gets me in trouble a lot. So I've seen this happen. I've experienced it. You get something you don't like, and you just say, "The heck with it. I'll never do it again." And then you really close down. And it's really hard to open up, and it's hard for people to open you up at that point. And the more it happens, the more you kind of tighten down. And I see that happen a lot, and that's a serious thing, because you'll go years like that, and then you'll get to a point so wound up you don't even know how to open your own self up. And it's a bad situation. I'm just speaking personally, and I think a lot of men could probably be able to relate to it, is that you don't want to appear unstable. You don't want to appear weak. You don't want to appear vulnerable. And the life that I tried to make for myself, these were not good things to have, doing the things that I did. You couldn't be weak. You couldn't be vulnerable because you would be attacked. But on a personal level, to open up to somebody like that, and you don't want them to see you as less than,
Yeah.
especially a woman, and a woman that you may have interest in. That is a very hard thing to do. And so if somebody does do that, that shows a lot of trust in you for somebody to open up, especially men that I know and myself, to give you that kind of insight into them.
Come in and talk about their job or their wife. You know, they want to come in and talk about problems they're having with their wife. And we might talk about their job for weeks, and I will have a strong feeling that it's something else. And when they feel like they can trust me, they just start opening up, and it's like a flower, it just opens up, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful process.
I go back to the discussion of their belief system, because that is the root. If you know how they were raised and what they were told, then you can be able to gauge on how you're going to help them. Because if a man comes in and says, and I worked with one where, you know, he had anger issues, and the reason that he had these anger issues is because as a child, you know, when he was raised by his grandparents, and he'd, you know, they'd say, well, what do you think about this? You know, they'd ask him, he's a kid, and then when he'd say something, they'd say, oh, just shut up,
Yeah.
you know, and go on and play or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he never got to speak,
Yeah.
you know, and so now as a grown-up, anytime that somebody tries to stifle him, he lashes out in anger.
Yeah.
And so we had to go back to the belief system, like what was he raised with, and is that belief system that you had, did it make you feel uncomfortable? If it made you feel uncomfortable, then you need to question it. That means it's not good. Just because our parents raised us doesn't mean everything they raised us with is true,
Yeah.
is good, is going to assist us in life, because sometimes it doesn't. And so you have to be able to question your belief system and change it, because we have the power to do that.
Has to be a level of trust, because there is such a miseducation when it comes to mental health awareness. When you do have the conversation after there's that level of trust. If you do have anxiety about having that conversation, practice with a family member or a friend. Practice, tell your therapist, can we do some role playing, because I'm about to tell this woman I love that I do have this, so I want to make sure, because if you don't communicate it effectively, it can cause unnecessary fear. You know, so you just have to be careful, but it does need to happen, because, and look, if the answer is no, you have to be prepared if the answer is no when you tell them. If you tell this and they say no, you still can't let it block you moving forward in your healing process. So, you know, that as well, but again, your counselor therapist can help you work through those things. But I always say practice the conversation.
You know, I'm seeing a therapist, I've seen a therapist for this amount of time, this is what I've worked on, this is how I've grown, versus just saying, hey, I got PTSD, you know, what are you doing about it?
Time period, and I think that's a comfort level. I think that's something you have to be comfortable with, whether it's a month or 6 months or a year. I don't think that's a time frame on that one.
I think you're right on that, but it does need to be a conversation.
Perfect being patient, but it's for me, it's just piece by piece. And it's kind of like, that's just how I'm able to give it to her. I'm not able to do it in one big lump sum, one big conversation.
Man, it's over. Just lay here and die destitute. I was mean to my whole family. I was mean to my daughter. I was mean to my mom. I was grumpy, grouchy. But then I met Lauren and she changed my whole life. She gave me a reason to live again. She made me feel like I was a man again, because she didn't look at me as the football player I used to act like I was, or the person who, you know, lied about this and lied about that. I had to have this, I had to have that. She treated me like I was somebody who she cared about.
Yeah.